So, Generations Counseling and Care Management has a mission to, quote unquote, maintain each individual in the least restrictive environment with the highest quality of life. What does that mean, and how do you do it?
I love that question because it means different things for different people. Mm-hmm. So our goal is to increase their quality of life, increase the joy in their life. And sometimes that means somebody wants to age in place and they need to make the home safer. That's how they take the control back. We all know transitions are very tough, and transitions make you feel like you have lost complete control. So the goal is to make them realize that they do have some semblance of control. It might not be the control that they had before, but getting them to acknowledge that. So if somebody wants to stay at home, we make sure that all of the resources are in place to make them feel happy and confident and successful at home. Sometimes living the most independent life can be moving into a community where they can eat food they don't have to cook, which I'm a fan of. Yeah. They can also be social and socialization. There's a lot of people who, we see this where people aren't sure that a community is the right fit. And so there's one case that I'm thinking of where she was the primary caregiver of her husband. Her husband passed away, and now she was having health problems. And she was stuck at home with a caregiver, and it was, working. It was safe, but it wasn't contributing to her emotional fulfillment. Right. And so moving into a community was the right decision for that family because it actually increased her independence. Sure. She was able to socialize. There was a widows group that she got involved with. She was able to eat great food, but while also having an assisted living presence where there's caregivers to check on her. Yeah. So in that case, that was the more independent way to live. And I feel like sometimes people think that that's counterintuitive when you move into a community, right? But sometimes that increases the odds, especially if someone's social.
So how does that consultation go with that patient? Let's use this example. This lady is having a sense of pride that I want to stay in my house and this is the best place for me and I'm going to do things the way I've always done them, where maybe on an objective level you or the children see that this is interfering with her social life and her quality of life in general. So how does a care manager work with that kind of resistance to help the patient understand what restrictive or non-restrictive environment is?
Yes, sometimes, look, I am not one of our care managers, so I know they solve problems in many, many different ways. Yeah. But I think part of it is looking at the entire picture and taking into account, like when you mentioned objectivity, where they're licensed social workers. So they're consistently trained in different techniques to diffuse situations, different language. Sometimes it's all about the way you approach. Again, it's about trying to figure out how they're going to take control of their life. So it might be, if you want to stay at home, it's perfectly safe. But the other thing that you could do is there's a assisted living around the corner from you and they offer a respite program. Why don't you think of it as a little vacation from your life? You could stay there for a month, see if you make friends and see if it's the right thing for you to do. Yeah. And if it's not, we can make going back home work. So sometimes it's about involving them in the decision. I think as daughters and sons, we tend to try and fix everything and take over. And that could feel very, they were changing your diapers. Yeah. They were caring for you. They were making your decisions. Yeah. So like taking that control is sometimes, it forces them to maybe be more prideful and put more ego into it. So explaining to families how that works, like I said, we've been mentioning this a lot, but when you're emotionally connected to someone, you do get overloaded and sometimes you don't say the right things. So having an outside perspective of how things can go in either scenario and outlining either scenario, I think pointing out, look, your mom was a very, very social person. until your dad passed away. And when your dad was really sick for a year, she stayed at home. She lost touch with a lot of friends. She stopped going to her senior groups. If we try it and she's happy, wouldn't that be the best case scenario?
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm hoping I'm doing my care managers justice.
Yeah. Thank you, care managers. You've taught her well. But that does lead me to my next question. So I'm curious about the name of the company that you work for, because you specifically, the owner or whatever, puts counseling and care management are both emphasized. Of course, social worker and psychoanalyst.
Yeah.
I love that the counseling carries equal weight.
Yes, I love that that's your background.
To management. So I'm all about one's life challenges, to getting them talked out as a way to improving resilience and quality of life.
Yeah.
So is this part of Generation's mission of compassionate care, and have you seen it affect how it affects one's life?
Yes, absolutely. So this is our owner, Vicki. She is also one of our psychotherapists. So she started the firm with a two-prong approach. She has a psychotherapy practice that's integrated, and then she's got the care management form. So they both kind of work very well together.
Oh, very good.
So I do run one of our caregiver support groups, and the biggest thing that I've noticed is that caregivers don't like to talk about their burdens. And they feel very isolated and very alone. And it does a disservice when you don't talk, because it makes you feel like you're the only one going through this.
Yes.
And when you're sharing about the challenges and your journey, you realize that you're not alone. And then there are people that are going through the exact same thing as you and understand. So I can't stress how important psychotherapy is. Just learning about yourself, learning about ways to communicate with family members who have like different points of view than you do.
Yeah.
So I think incorporating that as a part of the Generation's philosophy is important.
What's the owner's name again?
Vicki.
Thank you, Vicki.
And that's her mom.
Wonderful. So I believe bringing up, it's a little shift.
I'm ready.
Important shift. Good. I believe bringing up death diminishes stress and allows extended family and friends to experience a more wholesome life with the dying person and for themselves. So is this part of the care work that you do, this talking and counseling at Generations? Do you talk about end-of-life issues, and I call it the dreaded D word?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. I think it's a very taboo subject, and I think we need to eliminate the taboo from talking about the end of life.
Yes, can you help me do that, please?
Yeah, I know, it's really hard. I think the more we normalize conversations, the less taboo it's going to sound. I mean, you and I know this, we plan for everything. We plan for kindergarten now, years in advance. We plan for a wedding. We plan for buying a house. We plan for moving. Why aren't we planning for the most important and the most stressful part of life?
Yeah.
When you have these conversations significantly and often and reevaluating, I will tell you firsthand, if you don't know your loved one's wishes, when you're grieving, it's the worst time to figure them out.
Yeah.
The worst time. I mean, as someone who was not expecting to lose their mom so young, we had never had these conversations. And it is so hard to make a decision when you're grieving. So I really do feel like it's a passionate purpose of mine, and obviously Generations, to make sure that we're having these conversations consistently and taking the taboo out of it. Right.
Very good. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. And I do think it makes a big difference. And, I'm not talking about death from the perspective of making funeral arrangements, although I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, and I think you would address this, death from the perspective of we're losing a family member, we're not going to see them ever again. And what does that affect the history, the lineage of our family? And if that's not talked about, I think it leaves a giant hole.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So the dying person is losing the perspective of telling their history and family history and personal history, and the living people, the survivors, are missing out on that connection. So
Yeah.
I've seen it personally and professionally that when it's addressed, there's a big change in the relationship. You said earlier something that sometimes when a person is dying and we're caring for them, that we lose the perspective of being the child of the person dying, and we become the parent of the parent.
Yeah.
Which is fine in some perspectives, but if we could regain the fact that I'm the child of this person and what that history means and whatever traumas occurred, to have them be part of the relationship, to me is
I know, because
important.
after they're gone, you miss that relationship.
Yeah.
And I feel like when they're actively passing away, like you lose a little bit of that. So to be reminded of that, to bring in resources at the end of life, which people are very hesitant to do, so important.
So we've talked a lot about the value of this care management. And one of the things that I have kind of a mission on is to push these ideas upstream. And that also means to me, in a way, that care management, when should families engage care management? Because there's an opportunity here for all this wonderful work to be done well before a crisis occurs.
Yes. So I think the biggest misconception about care management is that you only hire somebody in a crisis.
Right.
And the earlier on you engage someone, the more options you have, the less money you spend, because nobody wants to be making decisions, when your head is held over a barrel. Yeah. So I think generally my advice is to get somebody in as early as the initial diagnosis. So if somebody's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia and the family's like, all right, this is early on in the diagnosis, a care manager can come in and look years down the line. So they do a comprehensive assessment and they look at the finances, they look at legal considerations, they look at not just the initial diagnosis, but all of the compounding medical factors that could contribute to the disease progressing more quicklier. Mm-hmm. So I think having somebody there early on gives the family time to adjust and also addresses their emotional needs as well. So having somebody just create the blueprint for caring for that person and then stepping away, maybe they have it covered, maybe they can implement the care plan on their own. They feel a lot more confident. There's less second guessing about their decisions because they've already engaged a professional. So I think the earlier on, the better. I mean, you spend less money that way too.
So care managers can be hired for short stints.
Yes.
Diagnosis comes in, and care manager can help lay out a plan from legal to medical to everything, and give perspective for a family so they can then kind of weave a plan together and use you as you need, as needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I've seen this go so many different ways since I've been with Generations for almost 6 years now, 6.5 years now, which is wild. But there are some families who do have a lot of support. They're in the area and maybe they have a little bit more time. Maybe one is staying at home so they can engage more. Right. So in that case, we would come up with a care plan and then we can step away and they can call us on an as-needed basis. The heavier advocacy cases that I see are usually when there's nobody around in the state. So you might have a son or daughter in California, mom or dad doesn't want to move all the way to California. Right. So a care manager can be hired on a 24/7 basis for an emergency service. So care managers can be going to the doctor's appointments. They can be advocating. If there's a fall, they can meet them at the hospital, advocate for them at the hospital, make sure the insurance benefits kick in, stuff like that. So it really is a very unique service that is supposed to be designed for that person's needs. And everybody doesn't have the same needs. Yeah,
that's good. Oh, great. So thank you for helping us understand care management and Generations in particular. Very interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.